Hey everybody, what is going on? It is Rob from Crypto Bobby, and today hanging out for a little bit of what I'm going to now be calling Crypto Happy Hour because why not? It's 9 o'clock here, but it's 5 o'clock somewhere in the crypto world. So somebody on the West Coast or maybe a little bit farther out is having happy hour right now, so we're going to hang out. I got myself some beers and going to just talk a little bit about crypto and of what's going on in the marketplace today, what's happening, what I think is kind of moving in a good direction, maybe what's moving in a bad direction, and really just learn a little bit more about that. Hey Connor, what's up? What's up with LTC? We can actually take a look. I will pull that up right now. I have the ETH Bitcoin pairing up at this given point in time, which is actually up almost 1% on the day, so not so terrible. But let's take a look at Litecoin, which is actually down more than ETH. Yeah, it's 420 somewhere. So if you're smoking, good for you. I got, I don't know, some local IPA, so time to crack that and sit back and look at some things. But I mean, as far as LTC goes, I don't watch it, honestly. I mean, I watch it because it's a top five coin, and I'll look at it and I'll kind of watch the trends. Quite frankly, I'm not super interested in Litecoin just because I don't necessarily think that it's like the most innovative technology on the planet. And I don't think it's necessarily the most innovative technology on the planet. I have nothing against Charlie Lee. I have nothing against Litecoin or everybody that invested. I know a lot of people made a good freaking ton of money in Litecoin, especially in the past couple months. But just, I mean, as far as it doesn't seem to me to like provide any other value outside of like what maybe a smaller, more nimble version of what Bitcoin does. So it doesn't seem to really kind of rock the boat too much for me on what I'd be looking for as a coin. Like Ethereum, I think brings something. I mean, obviously, a lot of us, I'm sure, know Ethereum brings something very different to the table than Bitcoin does. Bitcoin is much more of that traditional cryptocurrency, a lot more transactional based. Ethereum is this entire platform that can really be like built and scaled beyond. So to Litecoin's point, I don't see a huge reason for Litecoin to exist outside of investment right now. I don't feel like, I mean, maybe outside of some companies that like Overstock.com that accept multiple cryptos that would really need Litecoin in the future outside of Bitcoin. So I mean, I don't know. I don't track it too heavily. It's just my overall thoughts are I'm not as interested in Litecoin as I am in Ethereum, as I am in a lot of these tokens that are, in my opinion, maybe a little bit more innovative or a little bit more different, as I am in even like Bitcoin, because it's the market leader. It has everything going on. It's driving a lot of the price action. It's driving a lot of the adoption in the space. So kind of my thought process there. Mayra, hey, what's going on? Just starting out in crypto. Got any advice? Is there anything specifically, from an advice perspective that you're looking for? It's a little bit general, and I don't want to, go off on a tangent on what type of advice would be helpful for you. If anybody else is cracking open anything to drink, love to hear about it. I got some local IPA, and it's not that. I went to, instead of the liquor store, the only thing open right now was a supermarket. So their beer selection was basically Bud Light, Coors Light, and this. So, While I'm waiting for those comments, I'll take a look too. I mean, we'll take a look at Ethereum today, kind of where things are moving at this point in time. And somewhat of as obviously, many people can tell, pretty up and down day for a lot of things. Ethereum is bouncing back a little bit right now from what was a pretty damn low at around 10 a.m. today. I had a meeting for work this morning. I looked at 11 o'clock. I took out Blockfolio and checked Blockfolio just prior to the meeting. And not that I almost had a heart attack, but I got a little bit nervous on what was going on there. I saw ETH down pretty low. I didn't really have time to do anything. Good thing I didn't do anything. And that's one of the reasons you definitely don't want to get too over antsy trading a lot of times, because you really have no idea whether it's going up, down, sideways, whatever it might be. So, Steven and Serdurbek, sorry if I butchered that pronunciation of your name. My thoughts on, so I don't have any thoughts on ZRX or Enigma. Would need to look into those more. OMG, I actually got into OMG, I think maybe like 2 days ago or so, and put a little bit of investment into OMG. I put a little bit of investment into DNT, District OX or 0X. Put a little bit of investment into DNT as well, just because I'm sure the Bittrex kind of announcement or whatever is priced into DNT, but I still think it might have room to run, and it's kind of the hot name a lot of people are talking about. So I'm interested in that. And then OMG, really like the work that they're doing, kind of partnered up with Vitalik as far as Ethereum goes. And not to sound like a fanboy, but he seems like a pretty sharp dude, and almost like everything that he touches or not necessarily even invests in, but touches, supports, is involved in, then that doesn't necessarily go to the moon, but it goes a lot higher, and it lends a lot of legitimacy in the space. And I was almost talking about it earlier. I think I had a little bit of a comment prior on Reddit or something like that, but there was some type of meeting today with OMG and Vitalik, and I believe it was somewhere in Asia, but they were speaking to a central government. If it was Singapore, I think it might have been Singapore or Thailand or something of that nature. I don't remember off the top of my head, but that type of approach that Vitalik has, Thailand, perfect. Thank you. Sorry about that. Thailand. So that type of, I think, approach of Vitalik, even though there isn't necessarily a CEO of Ethereum, even though it's not a for-profit company, the way he represents Ethereum and the way he represents a lot of these other tokens or companies that are involved in the Ethereum landscape, I think is long-term going to benefit Ethereum quite a bit. And I know there's a lot of people that are out there, and they advocate for Bitcoin, and they do a lot of they do a lot of great things around around Bitcoin. But there isn't necessarily that quote-unquote founder, because it's Satoshi Nakamoto and it's anonymous, whatever it might be. So I think that almost gives Vitalik, Ethereum, a leg up, because Vitalik is almost like that makeshift CEO that Bitcoin kind of never had, outside of a lot of these people that have grown up in the space. Where do I see Bitcoin and ETH over the next few days, and why? I wouldn't doubt if ETH kind of stays. It seems like ETH has been in this little bit of a holding pattern around 300. I wouldn't doubt if it hangs out around there for a little bit more, maybe creeps back up. Right now we're at 286, maybe creeps up to around the 300 mark or so. I think Bitcoin might still move upwards. That's anything I say really is a complete total guess. So, but just like that, the feeling I get there as far as Ethereum goes is maybe a little bit of room to the upside to the 300 or so, but Bitcoin might have room to run quite a bit higher. I mean, it looked like they had a pretty big shakeout as far as things go, going all the way back down to 38, whatever it might have been. And it looks like it's testing some different kind of levels and shaking out some sellers here and there. So I think Bitcoin for the time being has a lot of the momentum in the space, and Ethereum might not have as much right now, but long term, I think Ethereum is going to retest its all-time highs within the next 1 or 2 months. I really do think that, especially with all of the kind of advancements. As far as where I price point I hopped on the ETH train, it was kind of varied. It wasn't that early, quite frankly. I have bought at a number of different points because I feel pretty confident in the technology as a whole, and I think it has a really, really big kind of ambiguous opportunity in the space. So I bought it from everywhere from 120, 130 up to 380. So I purchased it high, I purchased it low. I didn't get any sub 100 as much as I would have liked, but I kind of missed out on that train and took a lot longer to do research than I probably should have. So, learning from that mistake and not trying to make that again, but overall, kind of where I got in. As far as, I'm going to pull up CoinMarketCap and we can take a look at some of the other, we take a quick look at some of the other things in the space right now. Maybe see what you guys have questions on as well. So pulling up CoinMarketCap here. And looking at today's price action as a whole, the past 24 hours, I mean, overall the past 24 hours have mostly been down on the day, obviously. There's been, a few coins that have had an opportunity to move up. For one, in the top 10, Neo has been somewhat of the big mover. I think Neo presented a pretty good opportunity to buy earlier today. If you were able to get in on that dip, good on you. I don't know where Neo might run in the future. I'm holding Neo long term right now. I don't have that many, about 100 or so, but I'm holding Neo long term. And I think kind of days like today, if you had money on the sidelines, it probably wasn't a bad idea to buy that dip. And if a dip comes in the future, it's kind of my whole thought process is trying to avoid buying at the all-time highs and trying to buy, even if it's a small dip, trying to buy on any type of 5%, 10% discount, especially if you're confident in the coin. If it's something you're just looking for a quick flip, if you're not super confident in the coin, if you're not super confident in the technology, whatever the crypto is behind it, I'm not a huge fan of buying at any point in time, because I usually want to buy on things that I'm confident in, that I have some level of knowledge and familiarity with. But if you have something you really like and you want to buy into it, I would recommend trying to buy on a day like today where things are down 5% or so you can get a little bit of a discount instead of getting an entry at an all-time high. I think that's obviously the thought process I think most people take. It just gets really difficult on days like we've had in the past week where shit's just running through the roof and you want to get in and it's all-time high after all-time high. So there's positives and negatives there to everything. A beat of Purple Haze. Hey, Myri, on ETH and LTC and Doge, I actually, kind of funny story, Dogecoin and Bitcoin are kind of where I got into cryptocurrency. I think it was a Business Insider article when the whole Dogecoin thing happened that I saw, and I had known about Bitcoin, but I started mining Dogecoin on my laptop. Not a good move by any stretch. If anybody out there is trying to mine on a laptop GPU, you fry that shit pretty quickly. So I would recommend against it. I don't think many people are still. I'm not a miner. I like mining. I like the concept of mining, but and I kind of like the technology and setting things up. That was a blast for me, but I think in a lot of probably 99% of cases, you're just better off buying the coin straight up right now than you are actually mining anything. But yeah, that's interesting. Hey Shane, Goldman's prediction that BTC will crash to around 2,200. The recent Forbes article. So the Goldman stuff is interesting. I know, some people don't really like Goldman because it's the old vampire squid, and they definitely have a name and a reputation in the financial world. So the one thing I will say about Goldman is they had somewhat of a prediction pretty recently, I think really about a month ago or so. One of their analysts, I think they have maybe two or three analysts now that cover Bitcoin and cover some of the cryptocurrencies, but really primarily Bitcoin. And that person said, really, I think it was at the time, it was hovering over like 2,000. It was hovering at like $2,800. And basically, an analyst from Goldman said, Bitcoin is going to drop, and it's going to drop to maybe around the 1800s level, and then it's going to rise up all the way to like 4,000, which is pretty much exactly what happened. Bitcoin was at 2,800 or so, dropped all the way down to like 1,900, and then kind of stabilized in the 2000s, and then has since rocketed up to 4,000. So maybe that's a coincidence. Maybe it's just good analysis from Goldman, and maybe that's a reason why they make so much damn money and are such a big company. I don't know about Bitcoin crashing all the way back down to 2,200. I think that's fairly aggressive. I think that the previous call that Goldman made, as far as having a little bit of a crash and then rocketing up around that August 1st timeframe, wasn't like going incredibly out on the limb, but they did pretty much nail it. So I think it lends some level of credibility to their future prediction that it'll crash. I'm hoping it doesn't. I mean, that's just my thoughts. I'm hoping it doesn't, because if Bitcoin crashes, I think you're going to see it take the rest of the market down with it by quite a bit. So I'm hoping that it doesn't, because I'm sure, like the rest of you guys, I have a good amount of money invested. However, I mean, if things crash down to that 2,200 mark, I think there's probably a certain point in time where I would look to sell and buy back in at a later date. So I mean, I didn't get a chance to read that full article today. I saw that come out, but I'm definitely going to keep an eye on it. And like I said, I know Goldman does not have the greatest reputation, especially in the financial space, and more even so the crypto space, because it's a lot more anti-establishment and anti-financial system. That was kind of the whole reason. Goldman was really the damn whole reason Satoshi Nakamoto wrote his white paper and invented Bitcoin in a lot of respect. But they might just be pretty damn good at technical analysis and can figure this stuff out. So that's fairly interesting. And didn't get to see the Forbes article as far as how blockchain hacking can impact prices. So I haven't gotten a chance to see that yet. I'll definitely take a look and check it out. Hey Derp, what is up, man? Thanks for the comment, by the way, today. Remember that. Appreciate you subscribing when I was like sub 100, which was like 5 days ago. So thanks a lot. And if you are new here too, I got Derp in the comments. Was kind of one of the first subscribers. But if you are new here, I do a daily video. I do a daily video, record a video every day, and then when I do have free time, I try to do this live stream just to kind of hang out, talk with y'all, have a good time, drink some beer, and relax a little bit. So, what kind of beer is it? It's an IPA. It's Hypnotic IPA from some small brewing company in Fairfield, New Jersey. And what's my personal dream? What do I hope to do with my future moon profits? I don't know. I'd love to. I don't know. I have no future dream other than just kind of having fun. I enjoy what I do, and going to that. What's my 9 to 5? I work in tech. I work in software sales. So nothing super financial related. I actually sell software to the financial services space. So I get to work with some of like the more traditional financial services companies, like smaller ones for the most part. But I have a master's in information systems, so I've always been like kind of a little bit of a tech nerd and kind of really interested in a lot of what's going on. And I told the story a little bit before, but really got interested in crypto like 3 years ago when Dogecoin came out of nowhere and was popular, and had a bunch of Dogecoin and mined that and kind of learned the process of mining cryptocurrency and watch the space grow and kind of innovate. And I've talked to a lot of people kind of in the meantime about how to get into crypto. I've spread the word to all my friends and tried to get them, and some of them have done pretty damn well. Any thoughts on the archetype? So I actually don't. I'll scroll down. Let's see here. I'll scroll down to see if I can find what's up with ARK, wherever it might be. There it is. So yeah, where we got it here. So ARK spiked pretty hard. I don't really know too much about it, quite frankly. I haven't done a ton of research. I mean, there's so many damn coins. So I can't really lend to whether or not it would be a pump and dump or not. I mean, my thoughts on pump and dumps in general is that it's hard to identify a pump and dump in some cases, but look at the people who are advising you to buy the coin. What are they talking about? Are they talking about like the technology behind it? Are they talking about the founding team behind it? Is there some type of like good development? Or is there some dude on like a Slack channel who's like, hey, if 1,000 of us buy this ARK coin and we don't sell, then we're all going to be millionaires. Like that's not how shit works. And the only person that's going to be a millionaire out of that is the one dude that has 1,000 people buy the coin after him and then sells it at the top and then complains about why they let the coin go down, a la Chaincoin or some other crap. I'm not saying ARK is Chaincoin or anything of that nature. I haven't done enough research, but I'm just saying, as far as determining whether or not something's a pump and dump, look at the technology, look at the founding team, do your research online before you buy into it, and see like what other people are saying about it, what kind of the general market sentiment is. Reddit's always a good place to do a search on Reddit, do a search if they have a subreddit, see what people are saying in like eTrader or in a Bitcoin subreddit, wherever it might be. Yeah, I'm supportive of Steven. I'm supportive of OMG. I think it's it's interesting. I think it has a lot of potential. I put some money into it in the past week or so, kind of at a stacked amount, kind of around like the $6 point. So pretty much at even right now, and I'm gonna I think continue to put some more money into it as things happen, and hopefully if there's a little bit of a dip here and there. But I am supportive of OMG. I think that's the type of coin that probably isn't that really isn't a pump and dump. Yeah, it might be pumped, but I don't think there's the people behind it that are dumping this type of kind of like dumping the coin in general. Do I have first-hand experience talking with people in the traditional stock market about Bitcoin, other crypto? A little bit. Not too much. Honestly, most of the talk I have with the people in the financial services space is kind of about work, or about the software that I sell and that type of thing. So most of the people that I talk to about crypto, about Bitcoin, about Ethereum, about whatever, are in the tech space right now. But you'd even be surprised. I mean, I work at a Fortune 500 tech company. I've worked at a big professional social networking website you're probably familiar with. I've worked at a couple different tech companies, and you'd be surprised at the lack of even knowledge in the tech space about cryptocurrency and kind of how to get into it, what it's about, and everything of that nature. So it's been interesting to see. And I mean, I've had some friends pretty recently get into the space that have like just fallen in love. Outside of the fact that like the profits can be pretty ridiculous, so the losses can be pretty ridiculous as well. But it's cool to see how even a space that you think like tech would be kind of that open to, or that like not yet developed in terms of cryptocurrency knowledge. What are my thoughts about Basic Attention Token and the Brave browser? I haven't used Brave browser. I haven't. It's an ambitious project. I think that's one thing. As far as kind of what behind the Brave browser, it's an ambitious project. I think it might have kind of a core like following in crypto. It almost reminds me in some senses of like almost like a Steemit, where it's like right now it's like the people that are probably utilizing like Brave browser and the people that are probably involved in this project are crypto enthusiasts who have either invested in the token or are just kind of really interested in the space are the ones utilizing that. And the key to things like Steemit or Brave and Basic Attention Token and all that is going to be how to like get adoption outside of just like this like kind of smaller cryptocurrency space as a whole right now. That's kind of my thought process in general. And as well, going into that, I mean, I think there's quite frankly there's a lot of there's big companies that are going to compete against. I mean, you're talking about competition against Google. You're talking about competition against Microsoft and Mozilla. So it's going to be a competitive landscape. But that's not to say that in the short term or in the long term that Basic Attention Token can't kill it. Does Neo get to $60? I wouldn't doubt it. I'd like to see it just because I have Neo. But I by no means would doubt. I by no means would doubt it. I think it has legs too. I think there's a lot of people that are interested in it. So that'll be interesting to see. If someone were to buy Bitcoin or other crypto today? Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. They're not the first mover. They're not like the earliest adopter, but I mean, there's still such a minimal percentage of the entire world that uses cryptocurrency, knows about cryptocurrency, and especially with some of these, tokens. I think that granted the gains have been ridiculous. Granted, the technology has advanced quite a bit. I still think there's so much room to run. When you consider so many different things about crypto. And you're not necessarily, and to Justin's point, you might not necessarily be an early adopter if you get in right now, but you're an earlier adopter than the 99% of the world that has no idea, for the most part, what crypto is. Suggestions on Neo again, sold at $40 on the run down. I would just keep an eye on things. I mean, as far as Neo goes, I'll pull this up now. Where we got? So I'll pull up Neo right here, which has had a nice day actually in comparison to pretty much everything else. Yeah, I mean, I think Neo, you could potentially be, right now, Neo is early-ish. I think, obviously, early-ish is under $10, which somehow I got lucky, but I sold a bunch of it at. But even then, I mean, looking at it right now, with Neo, I think there's still a lot of potential for it, potentially. It's kind of, I'm holding it in auto senses because I think there might be a little bit more hype than there is substance behind it, but at the same time, if the substance can catch up with the hype, then maybe that's something that that I'm kind of interested in seeing how that could potentially progress. What is something that has the potential of killing crypto in your view? I think government regulation and kind of legal stuff is the scariest part of crypto for me. I mean, being in the U.S., I think that government regulation is scary. They could easily come out at a certain point in time and just absolutely fuck over everybody who's holding crypto. And if a government like the U.S., if something like China, if something like Russia, whoever, if a big government like one of the 10 largest governments in the world comes out and does something negative to crypto, especially the U.S., I think that would be a really big, crappy deal. So that'd be my biggest fear as well. Something on Neo's ICOs only accepting Neo will have an effect on the price when the ICOs start. It might. I mean, it could definitely have a price. It also depends on what the actual ICOs are. I haven't done too much research on the companies that are ICOing on Neo. So it's fairly, it'll be interesting. I mean, are people just going to throw money at that? Maybe. Is that going to reduce the supply? Is that going to drive up the price? Potentially. But I haven't seen the ICOs that are actually going to be on the Neo platform. So, I mean, if they're all crap ICOs or if they're smaller ICOs, maybe not too much. I guess we'll see. Yeah, thanks, Kareen. I appreciate that. Just trying to be as helpful as possible. I mean, if you're new here too, really just try and talk in a really relaxed manner about kind of what's going on. I'm not by any means a kind of specific cryptocurrency expert. I'm not a programmer. I really just like looking at like the general market trends and try and see, formulate my own opinions, formulate opinions based upon what other people are feeling, kind of see what's going on in the marketplace. So I'm not an engineer, I'm not a programmer, and I'm not kind of one of these guys who's going to, give you some crazy definitive bullshit about a coin going up, 1,000%, because I don't know. Anybody who tells you one way or another is full of crap, so I try to remain as unfull of crap as possible. What's the lowest price I see ETH hitting before continuing to move upwards? I mean, I think I don't know. ETH went all the way down to 268 and then, pretty much rocketed up from 268. So it's interesting that maybe there's a little bit of support at that 268 mark. Although Bitcoin started getting bought up at that point today when that drop happened. I don't. It's tough to say. I mean, we dropped from 400 to 150 pretty damn fast, and then went up from like 150 to 300 as well pretty quickly. So I think there's a potential that Ethereum could go down in the near term. I don't see it going back down below like maybe 200, 225. But then again, I'm just kind of talking. But I mean, as far as things go, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Within the next couple months, I think Ethereum, with the advancements that they have with things like Plasma and like all the work that Vitalik and all those guys are doing as far as developing the platform further, increasing the scalability, I maintain pretty heavy interest in what's going to happen with ETH, how things will move, and I'm excited to see what kind of develops, how the platform continues to develop, because it has such a strong group of not only people like investing in it, but companies built around ETH, companies that are connected with ETH in some manner. So really, kind of excited about that. Damn, zero to cash, $800 investment for 700 Neos. I think you're doing all right. Hopefully you'll get to see like $100. Hopefully $100 Neo would put you at 70 grand US, which good for you, man. Hold the hell on and see what happens, I guess, or take profit. Who knows? Whatever you have the risk tolerance for. What's my ratio of Neo and Neo Gas? I actually am holding my Neo on one of the exchanges right now and need to get it off the exchange to start getting that gas. So I'm looking into that. I've been talking to my buddy. One of my good friends is like all in on, or like really interested in investing in gas over a lot of other things right now. So he actually texted me about that last night. I haven't had a chance to research it too much, but that's something I'm interested in as well. Just kind of seeing how that might develop things. And I mean, I think the usefulness of gas also depends on the usefulness of Neo right now. And if Neo doesn't take off as much as the investment price has, then gas isn't as worth it. But we'll certainly see. Hey, Marcus, 21-year-old, looking to get into more crypto. Any recommendations or tips? I mean, I would just say start small and put the investments that you can afford to lose into crypto, and do a little bit of like diversification. I'm somewhat of an advocate on that. I back I've invested in, I want to say maybe like 6 or 7 different tokens right now. And, every once in a while I'll move some investments from from one of the tokens that's done really well, maybe take some profits, reinvest it in a token maybe I think is lagging or has a little bit more room to the upside. So I would put in the money that you can afford to lose, because it can potentially go to freaking zero. And there's that distinct possibility. So don't mortgage your college tuition, or don't mortgage your future apartment or anything like that on it. But start putting some money in where you can, and just continue to do so. I mean, I would recommend, I think for everybody, and what I try to do too, is I also, on Coinbase or on GDAX, I put in, I basically put in the money outside of like my 401k and outside of the money I put in the stock market, the money I have left over to invest. I try to dollar cost average in every 2 weeks, regardless of the price. If it's up, I put in a certain amount every 2 weeks. If it's down, I put in a certain amount every 2 weeks. So basically every paycheck I put in more money, so that I'm getting more exposure to the marketplace. I am getting more of an investment in, and then I'm also dollar cost averaging. So if the market's down, great, I take advantage of it. If the market's up, then so what? I'm still getting my money in, and that's kind of what I thought. Sold the Harley and the watch. I just got 2 new cars. I don't know if that's good or bad. My wife needed one, and so did I. I would love to pay off the house with it, but that would be freaking dope. What are my thoughts on Saya Coin? So I got in on Saya. That was like one of the recent one, or maybe like 2 or 3 months. I got in on Saya Coin, Jeep Grand Cherokee, and a BMW X1. BMW is mostly my wife's car. I love the Cherokee. They're both awesome. Saya Coin it actually had a good run today. It's been like down forever, but it's basically just been getting kicked in the nuts over and over after having a really good run. I think Siacoin or Siacoin, however the hell you want to pronounce it, or however I should be pronouncing it, is how to pronounce it. I think that is a really interesting concept. I think there's a lot of competition in the space. You have like storage, you have Filecoin. So I think there's a lot of competition out there. I got to stop talking and drinking more beer. I think there's a lot of competition out there, and it's going to be interesting to see which one can kind of get like a first real like mover advantage and have success in that storage space. I think that storage is interesting. The one thing that maybe is going against it a little bit is like the price of storage just goes down and down and down in the marketplace right now for like enterprise type software solutions. So having that backup space, I don't know. It's interesting to me, but from like a technical standpoint, I can't speak too much on it. I just know, I guess from like a Sidecoin perspective, there's a lot of competition. So it'll be interesting to see out of like Filecoin or storage, like which one of those actually is able to deliver on what they're looking to do. So I would love an M3 or an M4. Going from Bitcoin to cars and crypto to cars, I would love any type of BMW. I rented a Jaguar F-Type one time in San Francisco with Turo, Turo, that like Uber for cars app or Airbnb for cars, and that was the sickest thing on the friggin' planet, and I absolutely love that. So I would, if crypto really moons hard, I might be driving a Jaguar F-Type, but outside of that, who knows? Filecoin's interesting. I think I spoke about it a little bit the other day. The only thing with Filecoin is that it is, at least right now, if you're not an accredited investor, I don't know if the ICO is still going on or if that closed. I do love Tesla as well. Filecoin, I don't know if the ICO closed, but that was initially only open to accredited investors, which I think takes a lot of like the, takes a lot of the kind of participation out of these tokens, because if it's only open to accredited investors, then it's really going to limit the number of people that can get into it. And I think the more people in a lot of cases that can get into these cryptos and get into the ICOs, the better it is, because there's more. I mean, a lot of people are just speculating, but I also think there's a lot of interest that drives it. When you're talking about Filecoin and the like AngelList platform, I was pretty interested. Right now, I'm not an accredited investor, so I couldn't get in. I would have tried to otherwise. But, yeah. Tesla's pretty damn dope. There's like a Tesla dealership like 15 minutes away from me. Actually, not even, like 10 minutes away from me. As well as a Lambo dealership. If anybody really moons hard and wants a Lambo, there's a Lambo dealership pretty close to me as well. Couldn't afford either of them right now, but one can dream, one can hope. And outside of, I'll pop back over here. What do we got? So pulling back up CoinMarketCap to kind of pop in here. There we are. So, I mean, as far as things go for the most part today, I'm still looking for new opportunities. Yeah, I talked a little bit about Litecoin previously. Really when we just kind of kicked off the live stream like right away when we were at like 10 people. So I talked a little bit about Litecoin. If you're kind of new to the conversation, my only thoughts on Litecoin are I'm not against Litecoin, but I'm not like super interested in Litecoin as a technology. solely for the fact that it's like, I feel like its market position for the most part is like, hey, we're silver to Bitcoin's gold. Like I don't necessarily want to buy silver. I want to buy like the next gold, or like something that's different than gold and has like some different component or some different like value proposition other than like, hey, we're second best. Which is kind of why I like Ethereum, because even though it's not trying to be the same thing as Bitcoin, it's interesting and it's like a different type of, it's a different platform and has a different value proposition, and it's just different overall. So that's kind of what excites me about that. I mean, I think Ethereum always kind of always traveling a little bit behind Bitcoin is. It's unfortunate for, I think, a lot of the people that have Ethereum. I think there's certain times in the market where Ethereum is really broken out though from the shadow. There's not much you can do. I mean, when you look at Bitcoin in a lot of respects, you're talking about such a massive chunk of the marketplace where, sorry for the scrolling too. I really don't know what is up with this streaming system, but as far as Bitcoin goes, you're looking at a $68 billion market cap, and Ethereum at number 2 is $27 billion. The two really make up the vast majority. Later, Crypto Jack. Appreciate you coming out tonight, and hope you have a good one, man. So the vast majority of things follow Bitcoin in general. So anytime something breaks out of Bitcoin's shadow, there's usually some reason behind it. It's just a lot harder for Ethereum, I feel like, to break out of Bitcoin's shadow because it's already at such a massive marketplace. Like I saw somebody kind of complaining before. It was, I think, somewhere on Reddit or something like that, but somebody was basically saying like, how come when somebody posts some like shit message in a Slack or in a Telegram or wherever they do like the pump and dumps, that goes through the roof, but when you find out like Vitalik is working with the Thai government and OMG is implementing Plasma, Ethereum goes down. And it comes down to the fact that you're talking about a $28 billion market cap having to move versus like a $10 million market cap having to move, or a $50 million market cap having to move. Like it takes a lot more money to move Ethereum and Bitcoin as well. It takes a lot more money to move those two than it does to move, some $10 million shitcoin that, somebody's pumping and dumping in a Slack that's on 2 exchanges. So I think that's something that, to kind of look into to account for as well when you think about like how ETH moves and kind of how things move in general. And I also think in a lot of respects, many things trade basically in lockstep with Bitcoin. Although I know Ethereum's BTC trade pairing has kind of taken a hit over the past month and a half or so. So yeah, India crypto would be interesting. I don't know too much about it. I don't know if there's anything out there that's in that range, or that's in that type of kind of space right now. Be interested to hear about it. Obviously, it's a huge labor market. I know there's also, I've heard there's another guy on YouTube, Crypto, I think with Zero. I like him. He's always seems to be pretty informative and has some nice short punchy kind of news videos on the subject. And he was I think he was saying something pretty recently just about like India being pretty big on holding on to gold, and that type of investing through through gold and actual jewelry, and how that might affect how people in India would look at something like like a Bitcoin or like like an Ethereum or any other crypto as far as kind of their investing attitude as well. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go to the fridge and grab another beer. And we're back. What was, hey Jace, what was the last name of what? I'm sorry, what, I might have missed something. If anybody has questions too about specific coins or really anything, yeah, definitely sound off. Happy to kind of touch on them. Yeah, crypto, Justin. That's it. He's solid. I like him. He's seems like a good dude. Doesn't really pump shit. Just gives some level-headed analysis. There's a couple of other guys too. I mean, if we're on the subject as well, of people that I listen to and I kind of follow and I enjoy as well. The guy at Coin Mastery, he's a newer YouTube channel as well. He's like maybe like been around like a month more than me. That dude, I think it's Carter Thomas at Coin Mastery. He has some good like level-headed stuff. I like him a lot. He doesn't pump you full of shit. And then Node Investor, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Node Investor as well. He's a lot more intelligent from like a technical analysis, chart reading perspective, which quite frankly I have no clue on. So I like Node Investor to kind of understand the charts as well. Thoughts on DNT? I bought DNT the other day. I think it was maybe yesterday or 2 days ago. I got in on DNT and it wasn't. I'm looking to get in, perhaps a little bit more. I think spoke about it the other day a little bit, but essentially, let me see if I can pull this up. Essentially, I think when this gets listed on Bittrex, it's gonna, go up and have a little bit more room to run. It's, it's taken a nice little hit today, but Beast Dirt, appreciate it, man. I didn't get a chance to check out Plexcoin. Sorry about that. So my apologies there. I'll definitely get on that. That's a name I've heard a bit, so I'll definitely take a look at it. But District OX DNT, I mean, really, it's just right now trading on. Really, right now, it's just trading on Liqui. So I think once that hits Bittrex, or it's on Ether Delta as well, but really just trading on Liqui. And that's something that I'm interested in seeing once that hits Bittrex. I think that's well priced into some of what's going on. I mean, you can see on the charts here. Really, that's I think really right about here is when that whole Bittrex thing kind of happened, and it slowed down a little bit. But yeah, the Bittrex thing seems a little bit unsure now. I think ultimately that'll settle itself out. I think the team at DNT, if they're really like. The more volume you can get, the more exposure you get to different exchanges, the better. So I think they'd be pretty silly not to get on Bittrex. But if they're not, I'm sure that's going to take a nosedive. And if then I'll see what happens there. Hey Jace, yeah, Coin Mastery and Node. It's NODE Investor, not Note Investor. Node is the one there. So somebody asked, what crypto are you looking in? What are you thinking of investing in? So right now, just to give you guys full context on where I'm at. My biggest investments right now are it's Ethereum, Bitcoin, Civic, Status, Neo, DNT, and I believe that's it. So those are my biggest investments right now. Those are my investments right now. I try to keep it to like 6 or 7 so I can kind of keep track of like what the hell is going on with them, and then keep my eyes open like peripherally speaking to see what's going on. I'm not in on Ripple. No IOTA as well. OMG is the other one I missed. Sorry, Trong. OMG I am in as well. But outside of that, nothing else for right now. Ripple is interesting. IOTA is interesting as well. I'm somewhat of a fanboy of Ethereum. I think like that's I think there's just a lot of potential there, and like the sky's somewhat of the limit. So that's why I'm in on Ethereum. Civic, I got in on the ICO, and that's up like 600%. So I figure that's just gravy at this point in time, and I'm going to let that roll. Status, I got in on the ICO, and that's up maybe 200-300% or so. But that has kind of plateaued a little bit recently, and I'm getting a little bit antsy with Static. OMG I got into fairly recently, and I've had some nice profit, but not like a ton of profit. Neo I got in at $6 and is sold about half my stack at 15, only to watch it go up to 50. So I was kicking myself in the nuts for that. What else? DNT, I basically got in where the price is at right now, so that's kind of where I'm at this point. How can I possibly keep up with what's going on with 7 cryptos? I use Blockfolio just to look at pricing, and then Reddit's kind of like a godsend for filtering through some stuff. Twitter's good as well, and then I just try to keep like an ear open for what's going on as much as possible. Yeah, right? 100% gains kicking the nuts. Hey, my stock portfolio is at like 8% gains, and I'm pumped about that. Have I checked out Hive? No, I have not had a chance to check out Hive yet. I haven't. Going, I guess, to IOTA and Ripple, to the two previous things. Ripple, I think, Ripple's interesting, although, again, kind of going back to like the anti-establishment nature, a little bit of like the crypto community, I think that gets a bad rap, positively or negatively, deserved for, working with a lot of the big banks and trying to basically be like a big banking type currency. And then IOTA, I know that's been pumped, or, that's had maybe 300% gain over the past month or so. So that IOTA's been doing really, really well. However, I think like IOTA's vision itself and the technology, it's a little bit different, I think, like philosophically and technically speaking, than a lot of the existing blockchains are, from how they like run these like master nodes and things of that nature. But also, I was listening to a podcast where one of the founders of IOTA was basically saying like their goal is essentially to be like a crypto for the Internet of Things, and every single Internet of Things device on the planet is going to have a little ASIC in it, and that's going to transmit IOTA between them, and they're going to send like tiny, minuscule amounts of IOTA. That type of thing, like maybe I'm just like not far-fetched thinking enough, or like I'm not future-looking enough. That seems like a pretty crazy future vision to me. Maybe it's not so crazy, but somewhat interesting there. MadeSafe Coin I haven't really looked too much about, and SafeX either. I haven't gotten a chance to go into those, but I can definitely kind of research those and see what might be happening there as well. Kind of curious too, as we're going through this. Most people here U.S., or is there some international folks as well? I think I saw Brazil at one point in time, but be curious to hear where people are watching in from and what's going on there. Hey Justin, we talked a little bit about Basic Attention Token before, but I think it's an ambitious project, interesting vision. Canada, France, Sydney, US of A, New Zealand. That's so fucking cool. This is so awesome. It's 4 a.m. here. You're watching me at 4 a.m. What are you doing? Canada, Australian, in Asia at the moment. And that's awesome. Awesome to have people from all over the place. I'm in the Northeast, right outside of New York. So it's 10 o'clock. Shit, it's 10 o'clock at night. I didn't even realize that. That's awesome. Thailand, Canada, VA. Used to live in Virginia. Awesome. Well, it's again too. I appreciate everybody being here. This is so cool to be talking to all you guys. And if you're new to the channel as well, definitely hit the subscribe button. So it's always daily videos, and then daily recorded videos, and then I'll do these live streams every chance I can get, as far as talking about market movements, taking questions, having fun, doing that. NEM, definitely interesting. Looking at, don't have too much specific context on kind of everything that's going on with NEM, but I think it's certainly like an interesting type of an interesting project in general. I'll pull up the rest of CoinMarketCap now. Let's see. And Neo's really, I know a couple people were sounding off in the comments. I mean, Neo and Nem were really the only two in the top 10 that had a pretty solid day. And Neo's really kind of coming back out of nowhere, crossing up against 50 again, which is fantastic to see for anybody who is in on Neo, and I think a lot of people are now because there's a lot of hype behind it. I myself, like I said, I'm holding Neo, so that's one that I got in at $6 and then sold at 15, about half of it because I took profits because I was scared and lost out on a lot of gains. Hey Jacob, any thoughts on pre-search ICO? No thoughts yet. Or are you referring to pre-researching ICOs? Because I can give you some thoughts on pre-researching ICOs, but pre-search I don't have any thoughts on. And I guess even taking we talked a little bit about like Smith and Crown the other day. And like how you can research ICOs and just my overall thoughts on ICOs. And that's one thing that I think it's a huge profit opportunity and still is. Even if you're looking at like OMG, and some of the more recent ICOs that have gone on, the one thing I would try and look for is there's a couple different qualifications that I would look for and be excited about. Number one, a strong team that you like has basically verifiable background in cryptocurrency or has like worked at like real legitimate companies and isn't coming nowhere and like just some Joe Schmo who's trying to capitalize on this whole space. So try and find a strong team that has some cryptocurrency experience and real backing. Try to find somebody that has somewhat of a real product in place, especially if they have like previous venture capital investment or some type of strong association with an important person in the space that is willing to put their name on the project. That's another thing. And then one of the last things that I think is important is having a lower, in a lot of cases, like a lower capitalized coin. You look at some of these ones that have done well recently, and it's not necessarily like the ones that have raised like $100 million. It's the ones that have like gone out and raised $30 million or $15 million or $10 million. And then now they're at like $150 million or $200 million. I think that's where the money's at, rather than these coins that come out and these ICOs that come out and say, I want to, we're going to raise an uncapped amount or some bullshit, or, we need $150 million to like fulfill our vision. No, you don't. You don't need $150 million. You probably don't need $15 million or $50 million, but at least the ones that are capping their investment and the amount of money they take, because if they cap the investment, then it's a lot more pent up demand, and that lends itself to a lot more of a potential rise. And that was kind of my thought process too when Civic was happening. Was I saw that as a capped ICO and got a chance to get in. So, do I day trade ETH, strictly buy on dips and hold, or combo both? I've done a little bit of day trading. I've made some money day trading. I've lost some money day trading. Ultimately, like, it's a rush. Like, you get that dopamine hit. It's fun. I enjoy it. Sometimes I'm just like bored and I'm like, I want to try and play the ups and the downs and see if I can make some ETH, or make some other coins or whatever. Really my kind of overall investment strategy right now is the 6 coins I mentioned that I'm holding on to really right now. If I feel like something's been like super, super crazily overbought, I'll try to take some profits. I'll leave the rest riding, and then I'll try to redisperse my profits into another coin that I either don't have as much exposure into, or I think it has more room to run. So like when Neo went up quite a bit, it kind of worked hand in hand actually, because they kind of rose side by side. But when Neo went up quite a bit, I took some profits from Neo and put that into OMG, and they both went up pretty substantially, so it actually wasn't like that big of a difference. I probably would have made more money just leaving it in Neo, but I took profits in Neo, and I didn't have as much OMG as I wanted, so I took profits in Neo and then moved that into OMG. So that's kind of how that trading philosophy is. And then like I said, kind of pretty much like every 2 weeks, I'll put some more money and I'll just dollar cost average my way in. Browsing Twitter, I realized the guy who told me to buy Ethereum around this time last summer is shopping for a McLaren. That's nuts. I hope that's not all of his net worth. I know somebody who owns a McLaren customization. Like, they just trick the shit out of McLarens. Like, that's all they do. Basically turn McLarens into, like, even more insane than they already are by, like, adding, like, 2 engines into them. And he's, like, a engineer at some type of custom company. It's nuts. But, yeah, I love a McLaren. How do you find out about an ICO? So a couple different things you can do. There's a website, Smith & Crown, which lists upcoming ICOs. You can just like Google upcoming ICO on Google and see there's a couple different websites. That you can check out on the upcoming ICOs. I would look at those. And then there's also like different podcasts and things like that will also talk about what's going on in the space, and you can kind of get a feel for how people are basically a lot of times when some of these ICOs will come out, like if it's a big name ICO, if it's like an important person, they'll like go on basically like a podcast press tour or something like that. Like 10X, the founder of 10X, I think Julian Hosp, went on like a bunch of different podcasts. He went on a bunch of different YouTube channels. Like they try to get their name out there, so that's a good way to see like what's going on as well. Dropped out of college and is the head of a crypto asset firm. That, good for him. I'd be lying if I said I'm not jealous that there wasn't a McLaren in my driveway. And outside of looking at those ICOs too, I mean, the one big thing, and I've said it before, and I'll definitely say it again, when I think there's a big temptation, especially if you're new to the space. If you go to like a Smith & Crown or one of these other ICO websites, they'll list like upcoming ICOs, and then they'll list the ICOs that are ongoing. If you're looking at an ongoing ICO, a lot of the most successful ICOs that happen are ones that basically happen and they like sell out over the course of the first day or over the course of the first hour. Some of these ICOs that have been going on for like they're usually like the standard time is you'll have an ICO that goes on for a month. The good ones will say they'll go on for a month and they'll be out of tokens in a day, or a short amount of time period like that. What I would watch out for is if you go onto like Smith & Crown or one of these websites and you see these like 20 ICOs that are currently ongoing that have when the ICO when they start the ICO, it's like the ICO is open. When the ICO is open, has been open for like 10 days, 7 days, 14 days, and they haven't like come close to hitting their investment targets, that's a red flag to me. So just be careful of that, and something that something to be aware of. Crypto King, what do I think about Cliff High predictions? I actually don't know who Cliff High is, so I'll check it out. If that's like another YouTube guy or whatever, but I'll definitely check it out. But I don't know any specific predictions. If there's anything specifically he's saying that you'd like me to comment on, I'd be happy to. I just haven't heard of what he said, so I can comment if you give me some context. Great call so far and a few duds. I mean, the one thing to consider too, I mean, there's a lot of guys out there. Mostly guys, because crypto is, if you look at my YouTube analytics, I think it's 96% dudes. So if you're trying to pick up a girl in the crypto space, good luck to you. The one thing I'll say too, and Jace, I don't know who he is or whatever, but the one thing I'll say is for the most part, the past like year, crypto has gone up. So, and I'm not saying like my portfolio itself is up like 500% right now. But that's that's not from me being like some like super genius like or anything like that. Like everybody else's portfolio for the most part is like up that much. So if you sat back in the past month and like predicted, or like the past couple of months, and were like, hey, XYZ is going to go up this amount, XYZ is going to go up that amount, this coin's going to do this coin's going to do that, I mean, a lot of times I think you're more lucky than good. Like, that's why I don't want to make predictions. And because even if I'm right, it's not like I was right because it was something that I did or any like type of crazy advanced knowledge that I have. It's more of like you basically just got lucky. Like, the market went up and I selected a coin that I had some interest in, and that was that. So, I mean, I think a lot of these YouTube guys that like will say, you know, I told you to buy Ant shares at $3, or I told you to buy Ant shares at $5, or whatever the hell it is, like, and say that definitively as some type of like calling card, like, F off, dude. Like, you didn't make Ant shares go up a significant amount. That wasn't you. That was the market. So that's just kind of my thought process and kind of overall what I think. Like, you know, listen to people, see what they're talking about. But if somebody's telling you, like, for certain XYZ is going to go up and you're stupid if you don't buy it, or, you know, you're going to lose out, like, do what you want. Don't let somebody peer pressure you in, like, mentally to doing anything, because that's bullshit, and you're going to lose. You might make money, you might lose money, but overall, just, like, do what you're comfortable with and don't listen to people that, like, give you crazy, crazy advice. That's exactly it. Green, like I said, you know, I made a couple 100% on gains in crypto in the past couple months. At the same time, I probably lost out on like another 1,000% gains because I did like stupid stuff. So it's, you know, but that's through no fault of like my own genius. I just like heard people talking about certain coins. I did some research. It looked legitimate. I felt confident in it, and then I went for it. And, you know, I think a lot of people do the same, but I didn't do anything complicated. It wasn't like I'm Warren Buffett and I read through like a million technical analysis and have this whole intelligent investing thesis. I really just, you know, it's a little bit of luck and a tiny bit of skill. No, Michael, for the most part, I keep my coins on a Ledger Nano S. That's what I look to do. I think that's probably going to be the best. I think that's the best, in my opinion, the most safe way to do things is the Ledger Nano S. So that's where I keep the majority of my stuff, just because I think it's probably the safest way. Hopefully, I would try to get as many things off of North Korea. Crazy shit, man. If I get nuked with like $1 billion of crypto in my pocket, I'm going to be so pissed. Junior Coops, yeah, exactly, man. That's like, I mean, you pull the trigger, you make a calculated investment, and you go forward. But for the people that try to take credit for this stuff, like, get out of here. You know, that's my thought process is like, no, there's so many people and there's so many guys like just bullshitting your face off on YouTube. I mean, there's some really good people on YouTube as well, like I was talking about before. Coin Mastery seems like a cool dude. I've never spoken to him. I like his videos. Node Investor, you know, really seems really sharp, understands technical analysis, which I don't understand. Crypto is another guy. The Cryptoverse, that's another guy too. I like all those guys. I hate the guys that come on to a YouTube channel or to whoever and try to tell you like, hey, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret of like here's the next coin that's trading for $10 million, $10 million market cap, and it's gonna be, you know, the next Neo, and it's only on one exchange, but you can find out through me. Like, get the hell out of here. So, yeah, cold storage is definitely interesting, and I think too. I mean, if you're like a little bit of a newbie and you are just holding like Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin, I think Coinbase, if you're in the U.S. or elsewhere, probably I think Coinbase is probably good enough from a security perspective, because from my pretty much full understanding, they do have they are insured for hacks on their end, but obviously make sure anything you do and everything you do in the crypto space, use two-factor authentication on everything. Use two-factor authentication, and then use two-factor authentication again, and probably even VPN on through like all the stuff that you do. So yeah, that's. I mean, the FDIC insurance is good, but then that also isn't going to cover it if you get hacked. So that's kind of the one thing too. So like I said, Coinbase I think is I know Coinbase gets a lot of shit on a lot of occasions, but I think especially in the United States, they're the easiest way to get fiat into crypto, and I think they do a lot of good for the crypto world. While a lot of people like to rip on them and get mad at them, it is what it is. But to me, they're still the most reliable service to get fiat US dollars into crypto, and I like them for that, and I think they add legitimacy to the space. So, I use GDAX over Coinbase. So I use GDAX over Coinbase, Nick, and that's kind of my strategy, my thought process is keeping everything in GDAX. Coinbase is a really, really simple interface for people that are new to crypto. It's a great entry point. It's a great gateway drug basically, and then outside of that, you can kind of move into GDAX or you can move into other places as well. Yeah, Brock. Yeah, the Ledger wallet. I just got one pretty recently, and I love it. It's awesome. It makes you feel like a little bit like James Bond carrying around like a little like PP7 pistol or something like that. But it's awesome. I really, really dig it. This beer's giving me burps. No, I'm not in NYC. Outside NYC, I work in the city. So, work right in the city and enjoy that. Yeah, Brock, the safe deposit box is definitely something interesting. So, I mean, that's when you're storing it physically, that's I think probably a logical next step, a logical move for sure. To take that security to the next level. It's kind of funny too because it's. When you think about like a safety deposit box at like a bank or something like that, the whole point of like crypto is like, all right, we don't need these banks anymore. Fuck the banks. And then, now a lot of people I'm sure are storing ledgers in banks with safety deposit boxes. So it's kind of hilarious and funny a little bit how that works out. But at the same time, that's I think, like you said, you need a safe place to store because it is so important. Oliver, the cloud miner flop and the currency starts pumping into trading. I don't really know too much about cloud mining other than like people will comment on my YouTube channel with promotion codes for cloud mining. So, and I try to delete them as quickly as possible. But that's kind of my thought process. I mean, I don't know too much about cloud mining. Every time I've looked at it, I've done I've just been curious before because like I said before, when I initially got into crypto, it was with Dogecoin and Bitcoin, and I started mining Dogecoin on my laptop because it was like no mining power back then, and you could actually mine. And make Doge every day, like mining on your laptop with the GPU. That was back, it launched in December of 2013, and I started mining in December of 2013. And then I got a little ASIC Bitcoin miner that I put into the side of my laptop, and then I would have a fan running on top of the ASIC miner because it would literally melt my laptop. So I kind of did that for a while. So I've always been interested in mining, and I've seen Genesis or whatever those mining companies are, the cloud mining companies, and I've seen how you could purchase it, and I would look and I would do the mining profitability calculations, and it was like you were losing money hand over fist. I was like, why would anybody ever want to do this? So I'm interested in mining. I think it's really cool, but cloud mining seems like a huge ripoff. Otherwise, why wouldn't they just be? If it wasn't a ripoff, why wouldn't they be mining it themselves? It doesn't. It's not. It literally doesn't make any sense. You'd be better off. You'd be better off buying your own crypto, basically. For forever. And I mean too. I think ASICs and just these people that have invested so much money into mining rigs and literally mining farms, you're never going to compete with that. That's funny. You got 19 cards running right now. That's awesome. Brock, what do you mine if you don't mind? Do you mine Ethereum or do you mine do you do anything in specific, Brock? I have a JP Morgan ad on my page. Oh, yeah, shit. That's funny. Those damn banks. I actually like my Chase credit card, so I could take it. I don't know too much on Bite 'em. Don't really know too much there, quite frankly. I'll have to look into it, Shervin, but I don't know. I don't know all too much about kind of Bite 'em or where it's going as well. Do I think the huge number of ICOs with a lot of blind backers will negatively impact the implementation of crypto and the essence of the entire thing? So I think that it's definitely like there's a certain aspect of it that's a bubble for sure. I know probably a lot of people don't want to talk about it, don't want to say it, but I think there is an aspect of crypto right now, especially with some of these ICOs that are like somewhat of a bubble. And the reason I say that, or like the reason that like these big number of ICOs with blind backers, I think is somewhat bad. It's just like the valuations that they're at right now. At least some of them that like have no product or any like useful thing in place. And I talked about that in my video the other day, where it's like, where I said essentially it's a lot harder to evaluate to place a valuation on something like Bitcoin or Ethereum, because Bitcoin and Ethereum aren't really products. They're not for-profit companies. They don't have anything. Hold on one second. Let me get my beer. They don't have anything in place right now. But some of these other kind of product companies are with just on beta and things like that. There's nothing other than a white paper, and that's a little bit scary. Outside of that, though, I think for the most part, looking at the time right now on the East Coast, I'm probably going to sign off and head to bed in the near future and get up and kind of make sure I'm keeping up with the markets and everything like that. But if you guys are new to the channel, would really love a subscribe today. Like I said, I come out with daily recorded videos every day, and then outside of that, try to come out with as much content as possible for you, and then do this, kind of happy hour type video, or just having fun, sitting back, having some beers, and kind of shooting the shit with y'all. But outside of that, if you have any questions, feel free to sound off in the comments. And again, if you are new here, would love for you to hit the subscribe button. I know people from all over the world at 4 a.m. to East Coast U.S., to Brazil, to Asia. So thank you all for joining me today. Hope you have a fantastic day, night, wherever you are, and good luck kind of in the trading world. And again, if you need anything, hit me up in the comments. Have a good one. Peace.